Perhaps it is the Hottentots who are the most mysterious and peculiar tribe on the entire African continent. The history of this people can be summed up in a few words, as only the early part is known, which began many thousands of years ago. Then, several centuries before the arrival of European colonists, Bantu-speaking tribes came to the south of Africa, encountering the Hottentots, who were still numerous at that time. In a short time, the Hottentots became fewer in number and had to make room for the newcomers. However, this people, whom the Europeans mistook for monkeys, was the first in Africa, and perhaps even on this continent, to master the smelting and processing of metal, iron and copper. It was all quite simple. They would make a fire in a round or square pit, about 70 centimeters deep, strong enough to heat the sandy soil. Then they would throw ore into the heated pit, on top of which they would light another fire. Next to the main pit was a slightly smaller one, but about 30 centimeters deeper. An inclined groove was made between them, through which the molten iron would flow from the first pit to the second. When the molten iron cooled, they would break it into small pieces, and in the forge, again using fire, they would make what they needed. That's how these savages turned out to be. Well, they mostly engaged in livestock farming. Livestock, like many African tribes, was a measure of wealth for the Hottentots. Certain families of this people once owned enormous herds, numbering in the thousands. The men of the Hottentots take care of the livestock, build and repair dwellings. In addition to being a mother, the woman's duties include cooking, sewing, and repairing clothing. The head of the family is the man. If he wants to eat meat, then be kind and go to the savannah. Hunt your own meat there. They only slaughter their own livestock in exceptional cases. The food of the Hottentots is mainly dairy, as they do not have gardens. Their entire way of life is still based on livestock farming. The dwellings of this semi-nomadic people are simple. Why semi-nomadic? Because they migrate along a strictly designated route. And they stop where they lived a few months ago. There, the grass has grown again, and they can graze their herds on it. So, they don't have to build their huts anew. It is enough to repair them. Their settlement is temporary, as I mentioned. The hut is somewhat similar to the Chukchi Yaranga. The supporting poles are fastened at the top, and it is covered with reeds or animal hides. The size of the dwelling is small, about 3 to 4 meters in diameter. Inside, there are wooden beds and the modest possessions of the family. There are no windows. The source of light in the dwelling is a low door. Each family has its own dwelling. The huts are arranged in a circle. In the center, there are enclosures for the livestock. The entire settlement is enclosed by a fence made of thorny shrubs. The people are divided into clans, each with its own leader. The leaders often gather for a general council to make important decisions for the people. In the past, many years ago, the Hottentots practiced polygamy. If you have enough dowry for 2 or 3 women, go ahead, get married. But don't forget to feed and love them afterwards. A wife could complain about her husband to the leader at any time. If the complaint is considered valid, the husband is reprimanded in the presence of other respected members of the clan. In most cases, this helps. And for a long time. Now, monogamy has replaced polygamy. But, as before, a wife can only be obtained after paying a substantial dowry. In the African tradition, when a woman gives birth, she is considered unclean. A special purification ritual is performed on her. The woman is anointed with animal fat, usually from a slaughtered bull, and incantations are recited over her. Although, on paper, they are all Christians. But that's just on paper. The fat is poured abundantly over the woman in childbirth. Over time, it collects dust and sand from the African desert. Until this mixture falls off the body of the young mother, she is not considered cleansed of sins.